Hi, today I'm going to do a video that's been many times requested and many times denied, which is motherboard repair. Not just, oh, you have no backlight, here's how to replace the chip, oh, this is not working, here's how you replace this one thing, but an actual diagnosis from the beginning problem to trying to figure out the problem, to thinking you know the problem, to figuring out you actually don't know shit, to figuring out the real problem, to it working. Now, there's a few reasons that I don't do these. The first one, above all, is that I have to work very, very fast in order to get these done. I have to work fast because people will not stop bothering me on this fucking thing if I work slow, and I have to work fast because I myself will get discouraged if I am, being slowed down by something. I'll lose my train of thought. And when you have that aha moment, you know those aha moments when you're literally running to find a pen or a Windows computer with Notepad or something where you can just instantly type in what you're thinking because it's so good and it's gold? That's what it feels like when you're tracing a complicated circuit. And that's what, and you don't want to, I want to just keep going. I want to move forward. I don't want to have to stop to write, what it is that I did. It's bullshit. But I decided, let me do that for one of these so that I could do the video. The second reason is that it's not realistic for me to do this uninterrupted. I'm going to be interrupted many times. I guarantee you that my receptionist is going to walk in and ask me a question through that door at least twice while I'm doing this video, and it's just business. It's how it is. I'm going to be interrupted many, many times, and if I'm not going to be interrupted by other people or interrupted by people who have the gall to want their iPhone fixed on a weekend when I'm the only one here, motherfuckers, it's going to be by myself when I fuck up and I'm just sitting here running down the 10 minutes of footage that I have on this 2 gigabyte SD card that I have for this camera. So it's difficult to do these from start to finish like I like. The third one is an important one, is that I get a lot of calls on this phone recently from people who watch this channel who kind of want me to walk them through their problem. I even got a call from some fucktard the other day asking about Captain Tape, and I was happy to answer the question, but then he's like, where can I buy it? And I go, Google, what the fuck? And then he's like, I can't do that right now. I'm like, what? He literally would not Google where to buy Captain Tape. He wanted me to show him exactly where he could purchase it, what to ask for at a store, and I sold him a quick get the fuck out of here. Anyway, people will call that phone line thinking that it's an 800 number of tech support for a product that they've purchased, when I run a for-profit business and I spend 16 hours a day here, and I want to spend that time making money, and when I'm not here, I want to spend that time watching Game of Thrones and playing Warcraft and not helping you. Again, I'm happy to help people, but instead of sending emails, people have started now with that calling shit where they actually interrupt my work, and they interrupt people in the store who are walking in, and I'm picking up the phone for people who want help off YouTube, and that has got to fucking stop. And oh, I actually mailed it. Tell her that Viniera mailed the check 3 days ago. See what I meant about interruptions? Pay your rent. Pay your rent. Blah, blah, blah. You have a commercial space in New York. You have to pay for it. I'm gonna have a commercial space in New York, which is precisely why I don't pay my rent on time. Moving back to what I was talking about before I was rudely interrupted by the landlord wanting their rent. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so anyway, people will call this phone thinking that it's just like free tech support. And I know that that's going to go up a lot if I start doing these videos, like a lot, to a point where it's not going to be just me mildly trolling anymore. It's going to be me throwing that phone at a fucking wall. And I get at least 5 of these calls a day, not even including them with the receptionist and the sales guy block for me. But yeah. So anyway, moving on. Let's move on to this motherboard and just get past the bullshit. This is an 820-2915 motherboard, had ice cream spilled on it. And it works. It boots, turns on, it charges the battery, it sees the battery, but when you unplug the DC-in board, there's no battery. And that's the problem. Now, let's take a look here. It's pretty clean looking, and I put it through the ultrasonic anyway. And after putting it through the ultrasonic, it still didn't work. So I decided to start tracing around. Now, I forgot the fourth reason that I wasn't going to do these videos. There are certain pieces of information that I'd have to share with you in order for this to be a good video. For example, like how I know that this point, or like how I knew to replace, this thing, or how I knew to replace this, or how I knew what to measure and where to measure it. There are certain things that help me with that, and I can't share them with you because they were shown to me by people who did not want me showing it to others, and I have to respect that. or else I'm not going to be able to continue to have access to these things. So I can't show you the things I would need to show you, and I know you're going to think that that's not fair. I know you're going to think it's bullshit, and I'm trying to hide things and be anti-competitive, and I don't want you to learn. But if you watch the other videos in this channel, you see that I give away a pretty decent amount of information for fucking free, and you should trust me when I tell you that there's a reason that I can't show you these things, and that it is legitimate. Anyway, moving on. So, as I was saying, it charges the battery, it sees the battery, but as soon as you unplug the charger, even if the battery's 100%, it turns off. And we tried another battery and it did the same shit. And I tried this battery in a working board, and it works just fine, so it's got to be the motherboard. Now, the first thing that I do on these machines is I check around this chip right here. ISL 6259, if it's not turning on or the battery is not charging, this is where to go. This is the chip that does most of the work. In terms of powering everything in the machine, powering the battery. If this is fucked, everything is fucked. Everything pretty much stems from here. Everything important stems from here. So I decided to start measuring around this. Now, my first theory, thinking I'm such a fucking genius and I don't even need to measure shit, I just know what's wrong with it, was to check a charger B gate. Charger B gate gets sent out from this thing here, and it sends a signal to a transistor that tells it to open the battery to the computer. And that transistor is Q7055, which is over here. Now, not to get into a lesson on what transistors are, because you can easily find those all over the internet. A transistor is a transforming resistor. It's a resistor whose resistance transforms depending on an input signal. Let's make it simpler. What is a resistor? A resistor is something that resists electricity. So if you put a resistor between 2 points, you have less energy at the other side of the resistor than you did on the beginning of the resistor. Now you can have no resistance, like 0, or close to no resistance, like 1 ohm, where it's like you're just passing the signal through untouched. That's low resistance, or no resistance. Then you have high resistance, like 1,000 kilo ohms, where it's and then you can have infinite resistance, where nothing is being passed through. Now, what a transistor does, a transistor allows you to control the amount of resistance. So instead of the resistance between 2 points being a set value that you cannot change, a transistor allows you to transform it, to change it. So let me show you how this works. In order for this to make sense, this is a transistor. These 3 legs over here, see 1, 2, and 3, these top 3, they're the same. So just pretend that from here to here, that's 1 fucking leg. So this thing has 3 legs. Ignore the fact that there's multiple on the side. This is a leg right here. This is a leg down here. And these 3 are 1 leg. So think of this as a 3-legged component. Now, this is the battery. Now, this is one end of the resistor. This is connected to the battery. This is the other end of the resistor. That's connected to the rest of the computer. And this here is a little control pin, which is usually called a base, and that is what is going to control it. So this will flow through to here as long as there is voltage present over here. So if there's 5 volts present over here, this resistor will open and be 0 ohms. So what I thought is maybe charger B gate is not putting out the proper voltage, and this transistor is not opening the way it's supposed to and going to 0 ohms so that the battery voltage can flow through to here. I thought I was just such a fucking genius. And I measure along here, and there's 12 volts here, like they're supposed to. There's 12 volts here, so the transistor is open. There's 5 volts over here, and I figured maybe something in front of it could be fried. The fuses were not fried. This resistor wasn't fried. This wasn't fried. My theory was pretty much shot to shit. Because on the known good board, by the way, you should have a known good board if you're doing this kind of work, you need to know where you're supposed to be, or have an idea of where you're supposed to be, to have an idea of where you want to go. Anyway, back to this. So this shot my theory to shit. There was nothing wrong with that. So I decided, let me go back over here and back to this chip, which is related to battery charging and powering the entire computer, and go around it. So I started measuring all of the test points around this chip. These little test points over here are little probe points that allow you to tell what's on the different legs of this chip. So you can get something to eat. Actually, wait a second. Here, I said I'd pay for your lunch. So. Yeah. I'm not gonna throw it while I'm not an athlete. You're gonna have to catch it.
It's a business debit, so I don't need.
No, don't get excited. Don't go on a shopping spree.
But I don't need a PIN number, right?
No. Okay. If they think that you're me, then they're fucking retarded. Sign it as you.
Okay.
Let's have some fun. See if it works. If they think that you're me, that'll be hilarious. Anyway. And seeing as you're a Chinese woman and I'm a German-Italian man. Anyway. What did I say about interruption? Now. Where was I? Oh yeah, so these little points around here. So all these little points refer to legs on this little chip. I shouldn't say legs because this is a no leads package, but yeah, I'm just calling them legs because it makes it easy. So instead of having to put your multimeter probe under there and hope that you don't touch the leg next to it and blow some shit up, you can just touch one of these, which makes life very easy. Now, if you have a board, diagram, or a schematic, or something like that, it'll tell you what probe is what, and that makes life easy. But if you don't have a diagram or something like that, what you can do, and what I did for a decent amount of time, fuck is this stupid music playing? Is take a dead board. Here I have my graveyard of fucked motherboards that would not be fixed. Let's see. Let's take an example. Of course, I'm not going to find my example because I want to make a YouTube video about it. Here we go. So what I do on the boards that are absolutely sodomized and fucked is I actually take the chip off of it, and now I can use a continuity tester to beep the legs on, beep the solder pads on the motherboard to those contact points, so I can figure out which contact point is going to which pad for the chip. So that's one way of doing it. So again, it helps to have a collection of dead boards lying around. So anyway, I decided to start beeping around this chip over here and seeing what's what and measuring. And as I go around, everything's measuring just fine, and that's starting to frustrate me. But then I get to one of these, let's see, which pin was I at? Well, this is the other thing. I told you that I was going to type everything as I go, and I actually, even though I said I was going to type everything for this video, I wound up not typing a bunch of shit for this video. Because I just wanted to keep moving. Alright, so give me a second to find this. And as I said in the past video, I got this Lenovo new ThinkPad, and it's driving me fucking crazy. See that sound right there? That's me clicking the wrong thing in my application because my palm is hitting this huge piece of shit trackpad that they put in place of the old nice trackpad. And if I try to turn it off, it turns off my fucking buttons. And I need my buttons because you need mouse buttons to use a fucking laptop. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. These Lenovo designers are going to hell. So that's the thing. People who use computers that say this, they're doing this type of work on their computer. They don't want to hear your bullshit on why that you had to change everything because the designer told you that people like this better. I don't fucking like this better. I use this computer like this, and other people who are engineers and designers who are much smarter than me, they use the computer where they don't want their palm in the fucking trackpad. Alright, but back to my point. So as I'm measuring around, I get to pin 6, and let's see where pin 6 is. Pin 6 is... Alright, so pin 6 is somewhere around here, and you can measure it at this point over here. And I get 1.7 volts, and I notice that differs from the good board, which is getting 3.4 volts. 3.4 volts is very close to 3.3 volts. 3.3 volts is the voltage that motherfucker. Action. How can I help you? Yes, we are. Until 8 o'clock. Fuck off so I can finish my video. Anyway, again, these people, they got some fucking nerve to call when my receptionist has clearly went to lunch. Like, they can't tell that she's went to lunch and then I'm doing a video. But anyway, so, where was I? Pins, so 6. Pin 6. So we measure over here and we have 1.7. On the good board, we have 3.4. Now, 3.4 is very close to 3.3. 3.3 volts, if you've built a desktop computer, have any knowledge of this shit, desktop computers have a 12 volt rail, a 5 volt rail, and a 3.3 volt rail. And the 3.3 volt rail is very, very important when it comes to laptops, Apple laptops in particular, because it's the signaling voltage that's used. There's something called G3 hot that has to be present for you to even give the signal to turn the computer on. Most of the signals inside the computer, like fuck you, charge the battery, fuck you, stop charging the battery, fuck you, turn on, are given off of the 3 volt rail. You need that to work. So I stopped thinking of 3.4 volts, and I just pretended it was 3.3, and then my meter was off, or the tolerances were off on the board, and I said, this is supposed to be 3.3, and it's 1.7. Let's look into that a little bit further. Now, I decided to look into that a little bit further, and I noticed that this is also attached to pin 12, which is somewhere around here on the board, and that pin is VHST. I'm not going to pretend I even know what that means without looking it up. And I don't really give a fuck to look it up, because I saw that attached to VHST in charger cell, which are 1.7 volts when they should be 3.4, what do you know? What connects to them? PP3, V42, G3H. I'm redeeming myself for that stupid crackpot theory that charger B gate in Q7055 are to blame. PP3, V42, G3H, G3H, G3 hot, the 3.3 volt signaling voltage that controls most of the shit on the board. Actually, here it says 3V4, which probably means 3.4 volts, which means I'm wrong about 3.3 volts and I'm just being an idiot. Either way, who cares if I'm being an idiot if my theory is correct? I don't give a fuck long. I care that I can get this thing to turn on at the end. So I follow that, and I decide to follow it as far as it goes. So let's type that in here. Now I forget what I did next because I didn't write everything like I was supposed to. When I zoomed in on that Word document and I saw how short it was, I just knew I was in for a clusterfuck, because I knew that even though I said I was going to document it for a video, that I clearly did not document shit. Alright. So what the fuck did I do next? Okay, so I saw this thing along the line while I'm searching for charger voltage frequency generation, and it's near transistor 7931. And let's see where that is. Okay, we have this clusterfuck here, and then here we go. So I tried replacing this thing right here, and I got the exact same shit actually. It still didn't fucking work. So I decided to move on. Now, looking closer, it seems like SMBus underscore SMC underscore BSA underscore SCL, and another one that sounds very similar. Let's see which one that was. It's me hitting the wrong button in my application again. Fuck you, Lenovo, and your trackpad. Fuck you hard. Yeah, it looked like SMBus underscore SMC underscore BSA underscore SDA and all that shit, and then underscore STL. We're also 1.7 volts instead of 3.5. So I decided, let's follow those. Also, it has the word SMC in it, in SMBus. That tells me that the SMC may not be sending the proper voltages. The SMC is the chip that controls, turn on, hey, charge, hey, turn off. All that important shit that you want if you have a computer and you want it to actually be usable. So I decided to try to follow this thing around the board, see where it went. And let's see where I got. Okay, I got to D6950. There's a diode going between these two signals. D6950. Right over here. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Placed it anyway. And still no juice. Nothing worked. But now that I saw that little thing about the SMC, I started thinking to myself, is the SMC not creating the voltages needed to do its job? Do I have a bad SMC, or do I have something else that's bad? I was really hoping it's not the SMC, because this is the SMC. You can't see the connections because all the connections are on the bottom. This is soldered using something called ball grid array. Let's see if I can get the zoom in to explain it. Who am I kidding? This fucking $100 camera is never gonna be able to show you that shit. So anyway, this is not connected with legs on the side. This is connected with a bunch of balls underneath the chip. So to replace that, I have to find another one. I believe you have to program the SMC in order to, you know, if you're gonna put another one on. And you have to replace all the little balls in the bottom of the chip, which is a complete fucking nightmare. So I'm praying that there's nothing wrong with this, begging, pleading with God that there's nothing wrong with this, because that would be miserable. Or what is helping this to generate the voltages needed to do its job? So I decided to start troubleshooting that, because I sure as shit do not want to replace that thing. This is where you come up with a diagnosis. It's the wishful thinking and selective hearing thing, like I did in a previous video. I'm hoping that this is not my problem, because if that's my problem, I'm going to be very fucking sad and angry and miserable. And honestly, replacing this, even the graphics chip, is better than replacing that's just fuck shit. You can buy the graphics chip with the balls on it. It's bigger, but this is just fucking fuck shit. I hate replacing shit like that. I wind up getting to a dead end with that. But I figured, well, it's using a 3-volt signaling voltage. Let's follow this PP3 V42 G3H, G3 hot that I was following before, and keep going until we find something. So yeah, I replaced that transistor and that didn't do shit. And what did I do next? Oh, here's what I did next. I saw that voltage over there is coming from U6990, which seems to be the 3.4 volt G3 hot signaling voltage. I mean, the chip that creates this power, this voltage. And everywhere I go, when I'm expecting to see 3.4 or 3.3 volts, instead of seeing 3.4 or 3.3 volts, I'm seeing 1.7. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking maybe it is something upstream. Maybe the thing that's supposed to be creating this 3 volts is fucking everything up. I didn't understand it that much, because I know, based on my knowledge, that I need that to turn on this fucking computer. Usually when I don't have the G3 hot, it's either there or it isn't. It's not there, but just low. It's usually just not fucking there. So if I were to measure, and I remember doing this specifically, I tried measuring the power right here at the leads that I used to turn it on, and I saw 3 volts. So I don't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't even think that the G3 hot power supply could have had any issue. But I decided to give it a second look. And I decided to continue going where I've boldly forgotten where I was since I last had been there. Can you tell that I'm tired, that I stayed up most of my evening working, and that I haven't had breakfast yet? Alright. So where was I? So I want to go at the top of the tree here. U6990. That's where I was. Fuck you, trackpad. Wow. I fucking hate this thing. Okay, so we get to 3.425 G3 hot power supply, and that is right. There's something about having it's funny when you have even though the file is only about 1 gigabyte, it's something about when you buy the cheapest SD card there is at the corner store bodega, which in Brooklyn, that it doesn't copy off very quickly. I almost fell asleep waiting for that shit. Anyway, where was I? So I was on the So this is U6990. This is the head of the G3 hot power supply, which is the voltage that is not showing up in all the places that I want it to. So I tried replacing this, and it still didn't work. And that was a very stupid thing that I did, that I replaced this, because I was getting impatient, I was getting annoyed, and I wasn't doing things the way that I was supposed to, because had I checked everything around it, I would have noticed that it's not the chip, it's something else. So I measure everything around it, and I get over to D6990. D6990 is, where the fuck are you? Here you are, right here. It's this thing over here. By the way, we're on the subject. Look at how shittily soldered that is. I didn't even replace that. I just must have knocked it or something. Look at that fucking crap. Jesus Christ, I can't believe I let that onto a board. Ugh. I have OCD with this stuff. I shouldn't, but that's gonna fucking bother me. I'm not even gonna look at anything else this entire video. And when you look at that little trailing shit of solder right over here, look at that. That's almost touching this thing. I'm surprised this thing didn't blow up. I need to fix that. That's fucking shameful. Anyway, I'm gonna be afraid to turn this thing on to show you that it even works. Does this even work? Am I sure I have the right board? Is this gonna blow up in my face? We'll find out soon. Anyway, so this thing over here, so I measured 12 volts over here, which is what I'm supposed to be getting. And on this side, I measured 0.06 volts. Now on the good board, on that side, I measured 0.02 volts. And on the other side of this resistor over here, I was getting way more power than I was expecting on this board. Just make sure I was getting way more and not way less, because I actually forget. That was one of the things I was supposed to write down in the document, but I didn't write down in the document because I'm a fucktard. Let's see here. So you can look at my multimeter. Alright. So yeah, so before we fix this thing, on the other side of this over here, I was getting like 2 volts instead of 12, which is 12 is what I was getting on the good board. And on this thing over here, instead of getting 0.05 volts on this end, I was actually getting something like I was supposed to get 0.005. So on the good board, on the other side of this resistor here, I was getting 0.005 to 0.002 volts. And on this one, I was getting something like 0.06. And that didn't seem right. Now, I replaced this diode over here. This is actually 2 diodes in one little package. Pretty cool. And they're both going to the same place, which is why you have 3 legs instead of 4. And as soon as I replaced that, the 3.4 volt showed up in all the spots in the board it was supposed to. I went back over here, and I had, at pin 6, I had 3.4 volts instead of having 1.7. And, let's see if it works. I really don't want to turn this on the way that shit looks over there. But if this goes on fire, that should be pretty cool. Especially if I capture that on camera. Now this is an 820-2915 board, so there's a good chance it won't actually turn on. It's going to turn on and turn off, because this is a shit cock and balls motherboard, and that's what this particular series of board likes to do. It turns on, and then it, see that bullshit? What the fuck is up with that? It happens with almost every 2915 I work on. The first one that I worked on, I thought, oh my god, I broke it, I killed it, oh my god. And then I had people bringing me these machines that were being like barely used, and they were all doing that. It's just no fucking pride in these machines when Apple makes them, I guess. So as you can see, there's no DC in board. I'm not hiding a fucking charger anywhere over there. And look, it's spinning. It's turning on. It wasn't fucking doing that before, but it does it now. And that's pretty fucking cool. Now, so that's from the beginning to the end. I went through the process with you of what I did to solve this problem. Is this going to be your problem? Probably not. Now, the cool part about doing this, the thing that makes it fun, is that every single problem is a new problem. Every single one of these is a new riddle. It's something different. And you start to get an idea of what it is to look for and where you should start and where you should jump to based on experience. But it's a different thing every time. If your computer can see the battery but not run off of it, it's probably not that you're going to replace. You're probably going to have some other component that's failed. It's very unlikely that that's going to be the same thing. And that's another reason that I was hesitant to do these videos, because I don't want you jumping ahead and saying, okay, let me replace D6990 and that'll fix my problem. And then you're getting all hopeful that it'll fix your problem, and then you're getting sad when it doesn't. There's no shortcut to doing the work, to figuring this shit out. It's a new riddle, a new puzzle each time. And that's kind of what makes it fun. And right now, I'm enjoying the very, very short high, or at least when I finished it, the short high of having finished it, of having accomplished something, of having completed the puzzle. That is fun. And to be honest with you, is it cool to get $325 at the end? Yeah. In this case, it's going to be $800 or $900 because somebody sold this computer to us for $100, and everything on it works but this, and it is going to go in my window for $800 to $1,000. So that's like $800 or $900 of profit. But that's not even the part that makes it fun. What makes it fun is solving the puzzle. I would do this shit for free all day long. Don't tell people that. if I didn't need to make money to run a business. But I do, which is why I charge. If the money is not what makes it fun, it's the high at the end when you figure that stuff out, when you first short those pads, and when you first see that the voltage shows up where it didn't before. That is fun, that is awesome. And then right afterwards comes the low. After every high, with drugs, and with fun, and with technology, and with puzzles, there's also the low. And let me show you what the low is for me. It's okay, I finished that, but now I have to go on to do all of those. So yeah, that's a very short-lived feeling of happiness. And again, you're probably going to be mad that I'm not telling you how it is I'm finding what these points are, or how it is I know that this component is U6990. And I understand that. I understand you're going to be a little mad at that. And I understand even if you're not going to understand why it is I can't give away that information, why it is that I can't disrespect the people who shared that with me, who asked me not to share it with others. And unfortunately, there's really not much I can do about that. And, you know, I encourage you to go out there and find all the information that you need to do your job, and I'm always the first to give it away. But in this case, I just can't do anything but call them. So if you have any questions, comments, ideas, want to call me a moron because I'm half asleep and doing a video without eating food, whatever it is, put it in the comments, email, put it on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, all that crap, and just do anything but fucking call me. Because again, if I actually interrupt what it is I'm doing to answer your call, and your call is asking a question about this stuff, I am just going to troll you, and then I'm going to hang up on you, and there's not much else to it. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.